and welcome to the One More Thing podcast. Today I'm joined with Dr. Larry Baucom. How you doing?
I'm doing great today. Thanks, Rick.
We're doing a podcast this afternoon today, so if I'm not as sharp, there's a reason.
I understand. That's fair enough.
But I figure we start with your prescription for this week. Be kind, they're blind.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration for the prescription?
Well, I live in that world to where there's things that annoy me all the time.
As you were just stating, telling us the story.
I just got in here. I was at Hyatt downtown, and I parked at some meeting I was at. And when I came out, some pickup truck had backed into the spot. I was in a corner spot, and he had a trailer. So the trailer took his spot, and the front of his truck just absolutely blocked me in, and there was no way out. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, you got to be kidding me!" So all I can think of is, be kind, they're blind. Finally, I call the guy. He leaves me a number. I find the number. Finally, I call it a couple times. He doesn't answer, and I'm just like, "Are you kidding me?" So I start texting the guy, "Hey, I'm here waiting. You blocked me in. Are you coming?" Question mark. Question mark. Finally, I got a response. I'll be down in 10 minutes. And I'm just like,
thank God it wasn't an emergency.
In what world is this okay? To block somebody in a parking space and just like, well, this space over here is mine. And I go, it's fine, but you didn't take that space. You put your trailer in that, and your truck blocked the other space, which I was in. Yeah. But I walked around a little bit, and even though I was kind, and I got in the car, there's still something inside me that's it's like one of those little friction cars that you rub it 2 or 3 times and it's buzzing. Yeah. And I'm trying to be kind, but inside I'm like, I don't feel that way. I feel like I've been wronged unjustly, and the guy should never park there, and he knows it. Right. And it's construction, and it was just one of those things. Nothing that I said to him was inappropriate, and nothing I said is going to change anything, even if what I said was inappropriate. So at the end of the day, you just have to get in, breathe out. Say a few, the Lord is my shepherds, and just, I got to let that go. That
timing is great, though, right off of your message.
Usually when I'm going to teach something, it happens the week up. This time it happened just right after, but it is true, being kind to people. Mm-hmm. And, I can say, hey, guys, I appreciate you texting me back. I wish you'd answer the phone. And he said, well, I was working. Mm-hmm. And I'm standing in the hot sun in the parking lot. So, but it was just was better just to not say anything.
It's funny how the world works sometimes.
And just get in the car.
That's what I love about you and Troy. You guys are very honest with the fact that a lot of times you're speaking those messages to yourselves. Oh, yeah. It's a good reminder, not just for us, but for you as well as a speaker. And the contrast, I was noticing that this weekend too, is just. I love the contrast between you and Troy as far as like your teaching styles. Like he's very
he's animated. He's passionate.
But you have like this gentleness to you when you speak, and it's a good contrast, and I appreciate both styles. But be kind, they're blind was a great reminder. Just as far as like in a situation like that, you had every right and every reason to curse that guy out and storm off and tell him your thoughts, but you didn't. You were kind. So
I want to give you the name of the company so you can never do business together.
It's the exact opposite.
Yeah, that's it. But I think that sometimes, and not just that, but at traffic lights where people pull in front of you for no reason. In Sarasota, we really have a lot of senior citizens. Yeah. And they stop for no apparent reason. They change lanes without turn signals. They pull into you. And, at some point, they don't see you. Mm-hmm. And they really don't understand. Yeah. They think everything they've done is fine. And I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but there's been some time where guys gone by me and blasted the horn and flipped me off.
Oh, sure.
And I have no idea what he's talking about.
Right.
But I can only surmise, well, maybe he didn't think I was going fast enough, or maybe, or maybe I am aware of it and he's just being whatever.
Yeah. Well, if Laura's in the car with me, she tells me what I did wrong. But
that's what we have them.
But that's
why it's better to drive by yourself.
Exactly. Well, so, this weekend you were talking out of one of Paul's readings. Yeah. And just... It was centered around living the way God calls us to live. Right. And utilizing some of these examples of driving or somebody parking. What are some ways? What does that mean to live the way God has called us to live?
Well, I think part of what I was talking about is being proactive or finish what you start. And one of the things that Paul says is continue to let God work in you. And he uses the term work out your salvation, but what that really means is work out your connection with God, and which is the be kind, they're blind. I think the process of us becoming the best version of us we can become is not something that happens because we kneel at an altar, we say a prayer, or we have a prayer capsule we take, or even the fact that, well, I intend to do better. My intentions are always good, but my performance is not good. For me, it is pulling away from the busyness and breathing in and saying, look, I need to get my perspective back because I can live in that rat race like we all can. And honestly, I do. And I have to intentionally pull myself back and say, I'm going here. I'm going to go to my house when no one's there, or I'm going to go back to the back of the property and sit in my car for a few minutes. I'm not going to get on the phone. I'm just going to take a few minutes and reflect on who I am and what I want to be. And at this stage of my life, I really, I want to leave a legacy of kindness and gentleness and graciousness. But it takes work. It doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
So, and people say, oh, it's not by works, lest any man should boast. But repeatedly throughout the Old Testament and the New, you show me someone who just says, this is what I believe. I'll tell you, it's not about just that, but it's what you do with that.
Right.
And I think we're a church that really embraces and practices what James has to say about that. Show me.
Yeah.
You say you love God, show me.
There was a verse I actually took a screen cap of, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that. And it's centered around that, like this idea of like, okay, all I have to do is say a prayer, and I'm good to go. I don't really need to do much. And so it's called Faith and Deeds. And it says, what good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead.
And that's James.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it's chapter 1 or chapter 2.
It didn't have the verse on there.
But it's in the first 1 through 3 of James. And that is very much why Martin Luther, the great theologian, who said everything's by faith, sola fide, only by faith. He said it's only by faith, and it's all about your faith and faith and faith. And he called James an epistle of straw. And he wanted it cut out of the Bible because it didn't align with his theological teachings. Well, I tell you, there's some books of the Bible I would cut out because they don't align with my theological teachings.
Right.
The concept of Achan sin, this guy that keeps some of the plunder, and God orders, hey, his not only kids and all his relatives, everybody in his family line, including his animals, are all to be slaughtered, thus saith the Lord. I go, man, I'd cut that out.
Right.
Because that's inconsistent with the love of God. But I think we look at the Bible as a whole and see the history of the ages, men trying to interpret who God was and writing it down. But James, for Suncoast, we embrace what James was saying because we do think that it is faith without works is dead. And that's the very Jewishness of Judaism. Hey, it's about being a better person, loving your neighbor, all those things. It's not about having your creeds.
Yeah. No, and I think... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That's pretty much it.
I think when Ren Collective was here, he had the lead singer had a moment where he was introducing a song, and he was saying, this is what we're doing right now in worship is amazing. It's such a great time to connect with God and connect with our community and sing these songs and remind ourselves of these good things. But he also was like, but if it dies here, if it stays here, and we're not worshiping God outside of this place in the sense that we're helping people and showing the love of God, this is for nothing. And I think that's very true, just as far as like it cannot just be this showmanship of like I'm having like this selfish faith almost, like to where I feel super connected with God, but I'm not doing what Jesus called me to do.
Right.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we call ourselves Christ followers as well, because we do try our best to follow the teachings of Christ. And one of the things that I'm seeing more and more, I was actually watching a video of Elon Musk being interviewed by the Babylon Bee. And
I love the Babylon Bee.
It's great. But there was this really awkward moment towards the end of the interview that they're like, we really want to take this opportunity to save you. And will you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? And he pauses for a second, and he just, with Elon Musk, he's intentional about the way he speaks and just really thinks through. And he starts to talk about Jesus. And he's like, I really agree with Jesus. I think Jesus was, he had a lot of really good things to say, right. And he practiced what he preached. And in a way, I interpreted it more like, I really like Jesus, but I don't really like his followers sometimes. And I think it's because we lean a little too heavy in the sense that we're all about just the faith and structuring our lives around the rules, as opposed to like forgetting the fact that we are supposed to help. We're supposed to clothe the homeless. We're supposed to do the good things. We're supposed to be kind to people, even if we don't agree with whether they're theological or lifestyle. Like, we're still supposed to be kind either way. And I thought that was an interesting aspect, because I've seen that more and more. People are okay with Jesus. They like him. They like what they have to say. But as his followers, sometimes I give him a bad name.
No, I agree with that. And I think sometimes it's unfortunate when that happens, but we trudge on, saying we can't change that, but what can we change? And sometimes that's difficult. Right. I want to revert back to what you said about worship. People come in and worship, like Rain Collective or even Suncoast on the weekend. They worship. But there's a need for coming in and to be energized.
I agree.
But if that's all you do, I would say that's not enough.
Yeah.
The energy is simply to go out. That fires me up or charges me up so that this week I can go out and I can live the Spirit of Christ every day. And maybe as I work out my connection with God, I need that energy to be able to keep doing that. Yeah. And maybe that's the time I come in, I reprioritize on the weekend. It's not just about me filling up, but it's about me going, there's a to-do list of things I need to do this week. And it starts with here, 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 and here. So I think that's important. I had a conversation with my mother on the way in. It's just amazing.
These are always good.
She's 96, almost 97 years old, and she's wanted me to help her with her will. And she's been married to her husband almost 19 years. And I go, she doesn't have a lot of resource. We're talking about that, what we can do to make that, just the way she wants it. And so as we're talking about it, she goes, can I give you some motherly advice? And I go, oh boy, here it comes. So she said, well, you need to think about, about doing a will. And I go, Mom, out of all your kids, I've had a will for decades. I have a trust. I see attorneys about this. I try to make sure all this stuff. So your motherly advice, I need to say, Mom, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't have a will. I think
I'm the one who reminded you.
I'm the one who wrote your will that you have. So I said, this is a little inconsistent with what the facts are. I said, I can understand you saying this to any of your other kids.
Yeah.
She said, well, just thinking about, everything in your family. I just want to be sure. I said, well, let me reassure you. It's all up to date. I have a meeting with an attorney in a week or so just to make sure everything's up to date. Why do we do that? It's just common sense. Do the right thing because it's the right thing. Take the preparation that you need to make. And not only that preparation down the road, but the preparation in my life today, it takes preparation for me to want to be a Christ-like person. It's very easy to slip out of that. And it's not that I need to pray more, but I do need to pause and say, what are my values? Who do you want to be? Who are you? And I would tell him, Larry Baucom, a person that is a child of God, filled with the Spirit of Christ, and I want to really affect the world in some great measure, whether it's supporting a church that does what Suncoast is doing, supporting worship, music, teaching reconstructive theology. But at the end of the day, when people look at my life and say, look, he helped people, he provided a community that did oil changes and car giveaways and all this stuff, but someone from a very fundamentalist conservative side can come in and say, but was he saved?
Right.
Was he sanctified? Did he believe these primary fundamentalist doctrines, which I probably don't. But I think James comes in and said, hey, you say this is what you believe, but faith without putting it to work is dead. And if you want to see faith, it's not what you believe. It's how you live your life faithfully.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the point of the message was. And I think one of the things that all of us could do, it's not rocket science. Be kind.
Yeah.
People around you don't get it. Elon Musk, I'd say this. Somebody asks you that, he's kind. He diverts it and he answers in a way that's consistent with what he thinks.
Right.
And I appreciate people who think about it.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, I can't believe you asked me that. I'm highly offended, and they get insulted.
Right.
He's more thoughtful than that, and we should be too.
Yeah.
And that's a good example for us to follow.
Yeah.
But who are we? We're people who follow the teachings of Jesus. We try to live that. We let the Spirit of Christ live in us, trying to make a difference in our world. And we do that primarily this week. Be kind. They're blind. And then the back of the shirt, I love and I want you to also be kind to me, because there are days I'm blind.
Yeah.
And I don't see it. I don't mean it. And here's the thing. Maybe if I do, can you still be kind to me? Mm-hmm. Because I need it.
Yeah.
Sometimes what changes my mood is just someone being kind to me, or just making it lighter.
Yeah.
And I think that's appropriate, and that's a good message for our community.
I couldn't agree more. And I just to go back to your legacy, what you've created in this organization, from the that moment that you had that prayer and you're like, you've got that calling from God to start this organization that has forever changed my life and countless people's lives. And one of the things that we talked about in staff meeting is we don't know what those third and fourth order effects are of what this organization and this community has done. We have no idea.
No.
But it is an inspiration, and this is your legacy, and you've changed a lot of people's life through this organization. So,
But my primary legacy, my kids,
yeah,
and my grandkids, which are your kids too. So that's where I want to see my thumbprint.
Yeah.
I want to see that they are kind people,
Yeah.
and loving and caring as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the One More Thing. It was an amazing week, and it was a great reminder to be kind. So thank you.
This week, the teaser: act like an ant. Not an uncle, an insect. Act like an ant. Okay. What does that look like? We'll find out this weekend.
All right. Sounds great. Can't wait.
Thank you.